Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you have this slow, totally invisible leak in your house.
Like a cracked pipe or something.
Yeah, exactly. You check the plumbing, you inspect the roof, you even tear up the floorboards, but the water just keeps rising.
Which is incredibly frustrating.
It's a nightmare. But now I want you to apply that to your own body.
Uh-huh.
What if the biggest leak draining your daily energy isn't, your physical exertion?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. Like, what if it had literally nothing to do with your sleep schedule or your diet or the fact that you might be getting a little older? What if the single greatest drain on your vitality is actually, and this sounds crazy, your jaw?
I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive, right? Especially in a culture that is just so obsessed with physical metrics.
We track absolutely everything.
We really do. We track our steps, our heart rate, our caloric intake. We basically treat human energy like a straightforward mechanical battery.
Yeah, the traditional advice for conserving energy as you age is basically an engineering manual.
All right, the doctor just points at a chart and says, stop lifting heavy boxes.
Exactly. Or, make sure you get 8 hours of sleep. It's entirely focused on bodily exertion and recovery. But the deep dive we have for you today completely flips that script.
It really does.
We're looking at a landscape of personal energy that most of us just completely ignore. And while the sources we are unpacking are specifically tailored for people in the 58-plus demographic, the core warning here is something every single one of us needs to hear.
Yeah, the insights we're synthesizing today require a pretty massive perspective shift. We're pulling from the notes of this fascinating program called Experience Energetic Citizen, specifically their 27th installment, if you're keeping track.
And what makes this installment so compelling, I think, is its foundation.
Yeah.
It draws its core philosophy directly from these vintage publications of the Akan GOT texts.
Yes, the historical context is wild.
It is. We have one text from August 1966 and another from March 1975. So we're looking at decades-old wisdom that somehow perfectly diagnoses the exhaustion of our modern, hyper-connected age.
It really does, because when we examine this source material, it argues definitively that as we age, our most devastating energy drain is not illness.
Right.
It's not walking too far or carrying groceries or, physical labor. The text asserts that the absolute biggest drain on your life force is your tongue.
I have to admit, when I first read that in the notes, I actually laughed out loud.
It's a jarring claim.
It is, like my tongue. I try to walk 3 miles a day. I carry heavy bags of mulch for the garden. You're telling me that talking is somehow more exhausting than actual physical labor? Like,
Yeah.
How does the text even justify that?
Well, it requires us to redefine how we measure effort. We tend to think of energy loss as a purely physical transaction.
Right. I ran a mile, therefore my muscle spent energy.
Exactly. But the text describes this constant, insidious leak. It specifically points to useless discussions, loud arguments over politics, family drama,
Yeah.
gossip.
Oh, man, the gossip.
Right, which it refers to as perninda, or criticizing others. Basically, it targets generally uncontrolled speech.
Think about that for a second, for you listening. Just think about the last time you spent 20 minutes venting about a coworker or arguing with someone online.
Did you actually feel refreshed afterward?
Never. You feel weirdly depleted, like you just ran a mental sprint.
Yeah.
It makes me think of, well, it's like leaving a dozen apps running in the background of a smartphone.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. You have your phone sitting in your pocket, the screen is dark, you aren't watching a movie or playing some graphics-heavy game. But because you have all these apps constantly refreshing, tracking your location, pinging servers.
Your battery is still draining to zero by the afternoon.
Exactly.
That smartphone analogy is the perfect lens for this. Because what happens when you engage in a loud argument or when you're gossiping?
You get worked up.
Right. You're not just flapping your vocal cords. You are engaging your emotional centers. You're triggering a stress response. You are forcing your brain to rapidly retrieve vocabulary and formulate counter-arguments.
It's a lot of processing power.
It's a huge amount.
Yes.
You are running all of those complex biological background apps simultaneously, often for hours at a time.
But I do need to challenge the premise on one specific detail here.
Okay, go for it.
The program makes a very deliberate choice to target the 58-plus demographic for this intervention.
It does.
Why that specific age? Like, if running background apps drains the battery, shouldn't a 25-year-old be just as concerned about this energy leak?
Well, if we look at the broader biological reality of aging, the text's focus on the late 50s is actually brilliant.
How so?
When you're 25, Your physical battery has an immense capacity, and its recharge rate is incredibly fast. You can afford to leak energy through useless speech.
Okay.
You can stay up until 2 a.m. arguing about politics because your body simply outcompensates for the loss by the next morning.
The battery is just too big to notice the drain.
Precisely. But as you enter your late 50s, your biological reality shifts. Your maximum energy capacity naturally shrinks, and your cellular recharge rate slows down.
So the margin of error disappears.
The margin of error completely vanishes. Suddenly, that constant waste of energy through uncontrolled speech becomes a massive liability.
Wow.
The exact same conversational leak that you easily ignored in your 30s is now the very thing causing you to feel completely exhausted, irritable, and physically drained by 4 p.m. in your 60s.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, the text isn't saying young people don't leak energy. It's saying that past 58, you simply cannot afford the leak anymore.
That honestly reframes the entire aging process for me. It suggests we're often tired not just because we're old, but because we're inefficient with the energy we have left.
Exactly.
So if we accept that constant, uncontrolled chatter, the gossip, the useless arguments is the ultimate energy leak, what's the actual antidote? Because, we live in a remarkably noisy world.
We do. And the source introduces two primary interconnected solutions, framed almost as these ancient technologies of speech restraint.
Okay, well, what are they?
Mirabashan, which translates to measured speech, and mana, which is silence.
There's actually a quote directly from the 1966 Akan Jyoti text that is just incredibly sharp. It states, "Wasting words is wasting energy."
It's so direct.
It is. It treats vocabulary as a finite resource.
Yeah.
You only get so many words a day. Why spend them on a pointless argument?
Right. It forces a completely different relationship with communication. And to illustrate what this looks like in practice, the program uses this vivid archetype. It introduces a character named Master Dinanath.
Yes. The visual description of Master Dinanath in the notes is really striking.
It's very specific.
It is. He's pictured sitting under a tree, but he doesn't look bored, and he isn't asleep. The text emphasizes that he looks intensely focused, serene, and radiant. And there is this highly symbolic detail. There's literally a glowing aura depicted around his throat area.
That glowing throat is not just artistic flair, by the way.
Right.
It's the physical choke point of energy expression. It represents power being intentionally held in reserve.
Okay.
And this imagery leads to a really critical distinction pulled from the March 1975 text. It redefines our modern understanding of what silence actually is. The text explicitly states that silence is not cowardice.
But wait, isn't speech how we connect?
Sure.
I have to imagine someone listening to this might think, well, if a 65-year-old just stops talking to their family to save energy, aren't they just trading physical exhaustion for social isolation?
It sounds a bit extreme.
Yeah, doesn't this philosophy just turn you into a hermit who refuses to engage with the world?
That is the most common modern pushback, absolutely.
Hmm.
And the 1975 text anticipates it perfectly.
How does it counter that?
It clarifies that true silence is not simply keeping quiet because you lack the confidence to speak or because you lost an argument or because you're withdrawing from your loved ones.
Okay, so it's not a retreat.
Not at all. It is not an absence. It is the active awakening of inner strength. It's the deliberate accumulation of power.
So it's less about building a wall to keep people out and more like putting a lid on a pot.
Think of a pressure cooker.
Okay.
If you leave the valve open, the steam just whistles out into the room constantly. It makes a lot of noise, but it accomplishes nothing.
Right, it just fogs up the windows.
Exactly. Master Dinanath, choosing to observe mana, is closing that valve. He isn't fleeing the chaotic crowd. He's using that trapped steam, that conserved energy, to actually cook the meal. He is harvesting his own life force.
And the text notes that when you do need to open the valve, you practice mirapashan.
Yes, measured speech.
You speak less, and crucially, you speak sweetly. You don't use your words as weapons because that spikes your emotional energy. By speaking measured, kind words, a person's energy remains perfectly intact even into their 70s and beyond.
Measured speech acts as a protective seal. You're still communicating, you're still loving your family, but you're no longer bleeding energy through the friction of unnecessary conflict.
Okay, I buy the psychological benefit of that. If you argue less, you feel calmer. That is intuitive. But here is where the source material makes a massive leap. And honestly, this is the part I'm really struggling to see the logic behind.
The health claims.
Yes, the text makes a physiological claim. It says that observing silence actually increases the body's immune system and its resistance to disease.
What's a big statement?
It is. How does shutting your mouth fight off a virus? I mean, we are talking about preventing actual physical illness here.
It's a bold claim, but it makes profound sense when we look at how the source text understands human biology, which it refers to as our internal machinery.
Okay.
To understand the immunity claim, we really have to look at the physiological toll of an argument.
Walk me through that. What is actually happening to the body?
When you are engaged in the kind of speech the text warns against, stressing over politics, defending your ego, loudly gossiping.
Background apps.
Right, the background apps. When those are running, your body enters a subtle state of fight or flight. Your sympathetic nervous system takes over.
Wait, really? Just from talking?
Just from stressful talking, yes. Your heart rate elevates to pump more blood, your respiratory rate changes to support constant vocalization, and your brain signals the release of stress hormones like cortisol.
So your body literally thinks it's in physical danger just because you're arguing about the news?
Yes. It doesn't know the difference. And when your body is stuck in that sympathetic fight or flight mode, what does it shut down?
I don't know what.
It shuts down the parasympathetic nervous system, it halts digestion, and crucially, it suppresses cellular repair and immune function.
Wow.
Your body won't waste energy fighting off a microscopic virus if it thinks it needs all its energy to survive an immediate vocal threat.
That is fascinating. So the internal machinery is literally being hijacked by the argument.
Exactly. Therefore, when you practice mana, when you commit to that profound silence, you force the body out of fight or flight.
You flip the switch.
You lower the heart rate, you deepen the breath, you stop the flood of cortisol. The internal machinery is finally allowed to rest.
That's incredible.
And that conserved energy doesn't just evaporate. Because the body isn't exhausting itself on outward verbal combat, it reallocates those newly available resources inward.
You're literally giving your immune system the power grid it needs to turn back on.
Yes. The immediate results described in the source align perfectly with this reallocation. Thinking power becomes significantly sharper because the brain isn't cluttered with useless external noise or the cognitive load of rapid-fire conversation.
Makes sense.
Concurrently, the body's natural defenses and inner strength are awakened. You aren't magically curing a disease with silence, you're simply getting out of your own immune system's way.
It's an entirely subtractive approach to health.
It is.
We are so conditioned by modern wellness culture to think about adding things to our routine to get healthier. We add vitamin supplements, we add a new exercise regimen, we add a complicated morning routine.
Drink this green juice. Buy this app.
Right. But this philosophy says you can experience a massive surge in vitality simply by removing the leak.
It is the ultimate form of biohacking, and it was documented in 1966.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. Implementation.
Ah, yes. The how-to.
Because the biology makes sense, the philosophy is beautiful, but the reality is I can't just tape my mouth shut. I have a job, I have a family, I have, responsibilities.
You can't just disappear.
Right. Does the text actually expect a 60-year-old to take a vow of silence and move to a cave?
The source material is surprisingly practical about this. It doesn't demand you abandon your life at all. Instead, it offers a very specific, actionable framework.
Okay.
It suggests a pledge to observe complete silence for at least 1 hour every single day.
Just 1 hour.
Just 1 hour to start. The instruction is to walk away from the noisy crowds, find a serene landscape, or simply close the door to a quiet room in your house and shut the vocal machinery down completely.
I noticed something really interesting in the production notes regarding how to actually pull this off.
Oh, about the terminology.
Yeah, the notes explicitly instruct a change in terminology. They insist on replacing the Hindi word anushasan, which means discipline, with the English loanword system.
Yes, that's a crucial distinction.
They want the listener to bind their speech into a strict system. Why make such a big deal out of using the word system instead of discipline?
Because relying on discipline is a trap.
How so?
Discipline implies a daily moral struggle. It relies on motivation. If your goal is to be disciplined about talking less, you wake up every day and have to find the willpower to be quiet while your family is loudly arguing in the kitchen.
And willpower is a finite resource. If you're tired or stressed, your discipline breaks down, you snap, and you just join the argument.
Exactly. Motivation is like trying to hold back a rushing river with your bare hands. Eventually, your arms get tired and the water wins.
Okay.
A system is building a dam. A system doesn't care how you feel that day. A system is structural.
So how does a system work in this context?
If your system is From 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., my bedroom door is closed and I do not speak. Then you simply execute the system. You remove the emotional burden of choice.
You don't have to decide if a conversation is worth having. The system decides for you.
Exactly. By implementing this daily 1-hour system, the text asserts that the habit of silence begins to overflow into the rest of your day. You start experiencing that profound inner peace and radiant energy, transforming into that powerful archetype of Master Dinanath.
It takes all the emotion out of it. And it culminates in this incredibly passionate sign-off, which serves as the final mantra of the program. No excuses, make a system, Jai Hind.
It's commanding.
It really is. It drives home that this isn't just a gentle wellness suggestion. It is a vital survival protocol for preserving your life force.
It is a demand to take absolute ownership of your energy. You cannot control the noise of the world around you, but you have absolute authority over your own jaw.
So what does this all mean for you as you go about your day? What we've uncovered in this deep dive is that your words are not just air vibrating in a room.
Far from it.
They are essentially physical units of your vital energy. And as you get older, especially as you cross into that 58-plus demographic, the biological margin for wasting that energy gets thinner and thinner.
You can no longer afford the background apps.
By practicing Mita Hashan measured sweet speech and implementing a daily structural system of Mona pure silence, you aren't just saving your breath. You are actively building your life force.
You're repairing the leak.
You are forcing your body out of a constant state of vocal stress, giving your internal machinery the rest it desperately needs to repair itself, and sharpening your mind to a fine point.
It's a profound shift in how we view our daily interactions. And to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over as you step back out into the noisy world.
Please do.
If your daily words were suddenly treated like a physical bank account, and every unnecessary comment, every loud political argument, or every piece of petty gossip cost you a tangible piece of your vital energy, how quickly would you go bankrupt today? And what exactly would you choose to stop saying right now?